I don't know if this is true or not, but I've been told by informed sources that Greg Cody doesn't like the pressure of the second seat.
Who told you that? I want to know your source.
Is it true or is it untrue? Or you just want me to betray my sources? Because I feel pretty confident in my sources that you feel like the third seat is the place that you do your best work, there is less pressure, and that you deflate whenever you come in and you hear, as many of us do, as many in the audience do, that Stugotz is not here.
Wow, isn't he? Stu who? I'm kidding. I don't deflate. However, it is more pressure in this seat. You know, I'm used to steering the show because of the Greg Cody Show podcast, which has my name in it, so it indicates that
Twice, the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody.
With Greg Cody, right? But no, I'm thrilled to be in this seat. Honored to be in the Stugotz seat.
So you're denying what sources say because
Yes.
you just confirmed it beforehand and then you denied it.
I think what I confirmed was that there's more pressure in this seat, being the second guy instead of the third guy. It's like there's more pressure batting third in the lineup than batting eighth. You know, that kind of thing.
What about batting second and batting third? Not much difference.
Lead off. The only pressure spots in a baseball lineup are batting first, third, and fourth.
What?
Yeah,
that just doesn't make sense.
Everything else is gravy. You know, that kind of thing. Because, you know, if you're batting seventh or eighth, you're on a holiday.
Yeah, but
nobody
after
expects anything.
a certain inning, you could be batting fourth that inning.
Well, that's true. You know, the guy batting eighth could bat fourth that inning.
Right, so what are you doing?
And you know that the best hitter in a lineup now more often than not bats second.
Yeah, that's a new thing.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's new.
When did that happen?
About a decade ago.
Really? And what's the rationale behind that?
More at-bats over a long season. You get like 40 or 50 more at-bats.
I think third's probably more stressful than second, though.
I would think so, too.
But that's...
No, you're right. I mean, we're on the same page on that one. Second, that's an easy spot. You know, if the leadoff guy gets on, you're in a no-lose situation. You know, you bunt. Anybody still bunt? The sacrifice bunt used to be a thing.
Like Ohtani bats leadoff. Some managers just go with, if I bat him first over the course of a long season, he's going to get X more at-bats, so I'm going to put him first.
Yeah. Back in the day, if you batted a home run hitter leadoff, you were laughed at. You were laughed out of the league. It never happened.
Can I ask you just a quick question here? How is it possible that you have been trudging out to Marlins games for the last 10 years and it has escaped your attention that the best hitter in baseball now hits second?
I don't acknowledge it. I don't think it's true.
Oh.
Is there any quantifiable proof to that? Name one team.
Yes, it's
with
all of
the
them.
best hitter batting.
It's
second.
Look
all
at
of them.
every
Name
team's
one
lineup.
good hitter on the Marlins. How would he know what a good hitter is?
No, you can't. I mean, it's
Exactly.
ridiculous, the Marlins.
Greg, how do you not know this? You've been going to baseball games for the last 10 years.
Yeah, long enough to have earned a Hall of Fame vote.
How do you not know that baseball has switched to its best hitter now? I do love when baseball brilliant people suddenly discover, oh, yeah, get our best hitter more at bats. Like, we've been doing it wrong for 100 years.
Vlad Guerrero Jr. with the Blue Jays, one of their best hitters, batting second in their projected starting lineup. Gunnar Henderson for the Orioles, batting leadoff.
Never heard of him.
Okay.
Guerrero projected as batting second for someone other than the Blue Jays.
We're going to skip past he's never heard of Gunnar Henderson?
Yeah, well, we're going to just start the show and see where we end up with him not feeling at all the pressure of being the second chair.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget about peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man's so tough, but man's keep walking. Yeah. girls, let her tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
We're in for an experience today because if you guys are not aware of what happened to Greg Cody the week before his annual I'm going on a cruise and all I care about is just please put me at a bar for 7 days so I can stand in the middle of the sea drinking from the drink package. Greg Cody tends to mail it in right before that annual trip. He is already he's sailed to sea on vacation. Chris, are you taking this trip with him? Is this another family trip? How often does your father lean on you or get carried back to his room by you because that free drink package is something that he really he attacks with vigor?
I'm going to give him credit. I rarely have to carry him back to the room. I would say that there's a lot of pointing. We go to the elevator that way. That's the way down towards your room.
A cruise ship, for those who haven't cruise shipped.
Long hallways.
Yeah, long-ass hallways. And depending on what flight of stairs you walk up, you're never quite sure. Are you starboard? Are you the other?
There's pictures clearly that say that near the elevators.
Yeah,
that help you out with that.
That kind of thing.
Do you know where you're going?
We're going to the Caribbean.
Be more specific.
St. Kitts.
Kitts.
Whatever. St. Kitts. Okay, that sounds like a small island. That's a name that implies it's a very, very small island.
You nailed it.
Okay, St. Kitts and something. Tobago.
Nevis,
I don't know where
yeah.
We are not going to Trinidad and Tobago.
They have a nice rainforest there.
Where, Nevis?
No, in St. Kitts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can zip line. It's fun.
Nevis doesn't even sound like the name of a country.
Okay, great.
I was told
Nexus.
that Greg Cody, the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody, has a reveal today that was both embarrassing to you and that you didn't realize until several minutes after announcing it that it should be embarrassing to you.
Why? I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that you apparently reveal when you lost your virginity on the latest episode of the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody.
It's an estimate. Who can remember that far back, to be honest with you? I mean, it's so, I could have been off by a year. I think I might have been a year younger than I estimated.
Wow.
How did this come up?
Well, we have a March Madness special that dropped today. And Yesterday. And by that I mean we don't talk about college basketball at all, but I do my Mount Gregmore, which, as everyone knows, is a top 5, not a top 4. I do my Mount Gregmore of marches, brackets, baskets, and balls. And under the category of March...
So it's top 5 marches of all time.
Yeah, I happened to lose my virginity in the month of March, as I recall. And so that was one of the 5 marches. And there's a poll online today under my Twitter feed. It's always Twitter to me, still, not X, that includes a vote on which of the 5 should be the number 1 seed March.
March 77, running away with it.
I think it was 76.
It was 77. You're just embarrassed about this now.
Okay.
So you're
No,
making
I'm
it
not. I was
76.
in my early 20s. It happens. I don't lie like most people.
Everyone else is lying.
I mean, I think why would I be embarrassed about that? I hadn't found anybody, or should I say no one had found me. I was playing Stratomatic baseball when I should have been dating in high school. What can I say? I'm living my life. I'm doing all the best I can.
Your son said that afterward you were sheepish and wandering around saying, is 23 old to be losing your virginity?
Well, Christopher was howling with laughter as if it was like abnormally old. Maybe it is. I don't know. But see, I'm not swayed by whatever anybody else thinks. Like you say, I should be embarrassed by that.
I didn't say
you
should be
embarrassed.
I didn't say you should be embarrassed by that. I said that it was reported that you were embarrassed by that.
For the time, that feels a little late for me. I'm not shaming you. Like, a lot of people wait for marriage. There are a lot of reasons to not do that. But I just, it was just funny to me because you, I think, thought that was...
You thought
the
it was
average.
okay at the beginning, and then you were meant to feel shame that you didn't feel like feeling, and now you're defiant about not having felt that shame because you're just sort of covering up and hiding the shame.
Well, it's, way to psychoanalyze me, without
But
having
that's
proper
just, I just
information.
gave a timeline. I just gave a timeline of factual information.
I was somewhat surprised by Christopher's reaction because to me, I haven't and still don't think of it as abnormal. Somebody.
So it was the FAU dorms?
It was afterward. If he's 23, he's out of college.
It took him a while to get on.
It took me a while. Keep in mind, I worked for the Miami Herald. They had me work 39 hours a week, so that I was essentially full-time, but they didn't have to pay me like a full-time employee or start my benefits clock.
That should have been your first warning that journalism was trying to do it on the cheap.
Yeah, but back then, it was the heyday of journalism. Are you kidding me? 70s and 80s? That's when we were king. But
what is a heyday?
Heyday.
Is that for
glory
horses?
days.
Is that for horses?
Halcyon days.
I don't know, but I don't know what a heyday actually
No,
is.
it's
Is
got
it
nothing
hay?
No, because it's H-E-Y. It's not H-A-Y.
So what is it? What is a heyday?
A heyday is the best of times.
I know
Glory
what a
days.
I think it has
heyday
to do
is.
with Willie Mays.
No, I don't.
Let's say heyday kid.
That's right.
Speaking of heyday in journalism, there was a Yale Review story that I saw yesterday that said Vanity Fair's heyday, and the guy in it, Graydon Carter, for 25 years was the editor there and made $166,000 per article that he wrote. And he wrote like 3 articles a year and was just raking in cash.
Wow.
That was the heyday of journalism.
That's crazy. I probably get about $78 an column.
I want to go through again what is on the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody. You said top 5 marches.
Yeah, final 5 marches, brackets, baskets, and balls.
Brackets.
Top 5 brackets of all time. Or is that like tournament years? Like I loved the 99 NCAA bracket. Like what does that even mean?
No, it's I'll give you an example. One of my top 5 brackets is the Carpenters know it well, the angle bracket, which is a classic 90-degree bracket which affixes together 2 different types of wood. I was making my I once had a tall table around my avocado tree, and I used angle brackets to attach the tabletop to the 4x4 legs. That's an example of a classic bracket that nobody ever gives respect to. Nobody knows what an angle bracket is.
I've got to tell you, I'm shocked that you would be so ambitious as to think you could find 5 brackets. And the reason this has made the top 5 is because of how hard it is to find top 5 brackets.
It's not a carpenter over here. He doesn't know. There's brackets aplenty.
Yeah, there really are.
You can do brackets for days.
There's
Give
all
another
kind of
bracket. Give another teaser.
I believe I think one of them was the short-lived television show called Brackets.
Yep, that was on there.
Okay, Jesus.
Did you include the brackets from like
Galifianakis.
races, right? That's where you sort of put like the rubber bands when you're trying to fix the way that your overbite might work.
That did not make the
Wow,
the
oh
final.
alive.
That's got to be a bottom bracket, though. Those things
well,
suck.
keep in mind, it's tough to make a final 5. It's tough to make a Mount Greg 5, and but
That is not the way that is said. A Mount Greg 5?
Yeah, a Mount Greg 4.
What is the
Which is
name
a
of it?
5.
What is it? It is not a Mount Greg 5, is it? It's
I
a
don't
Mount-
know. What do we
Okay.
call it?
Mount Greg Moore is his top 5.
Greg, it is so great to see you on your own podcast that has your own name twice. Always go, I don't know. What is it about this thing that
Yeah.
I do, Chris? Tell me more about it. I can't be bothered to answer questions or retain information about my own podcast. And you just point to your son and say, I don't know, Chris. Go ahead and tell him what I think about things.
Well, that's he's my executive producer. I pay him as such, and sometimes I rely on him to fill in the details.
Chris,
I'm
you
a
just
big
rolled
picture
your
man.
eyes that he pays you as such.
I mean, he knows how I feel about that. But, it's a
Okay.
different conversation.
But
Different
anyway,
Well, wait. What? No, it's not a different conversation. It's the one I want to have now, where he thinks he's paying you well and you think he's not. So he just said, I don't have to retain my own thoughts because of how well I pay my executive producer, who then rolled his eyes at how well he's not paid.
well, he's feeling a little bit entitled. If I ask Christopher how much time he devotes to the Greg Cody Show podcast on a weekly basis, I don't know whether he's going to exaggerate it or not. I'm saying some weeks it's maybe an hour
of actual recording. Then there's creative, like thinking about the show. And creative.
Repeating your thoughts that you can't retain for yourself.
The stupid call you and Yeti want to have every Wednesday.
The point is stupid call. It's called an organizational meeting.
Oh, wow. You like meetings for your own show.
We have a phone meeting. We don't have a meeting where we're all in a room.
Here's the meeting.
Nobody's saying anything that's worthwhile.
Here's the meeting. Greg Cody goes, we should have a guest this week for like 30 minutes.
Christopher, get on it.
Yeah.
Who books the guest, Christopher or Yeti?
Both.
Sometimes I
If
do.
there was budget cuts and you had to choose one, Christopher or Yeti, in terms of who is more responsible for the putting out of the Greg Cody Show with Greg Cody,
That's a good question.
who would you choose?
That's a tough answer because Christopher is the second in command on air. Like he's my Robin to Batman. But Yeti does most of the producing work, most of the social media work, and stuff like that. So I need both.
So Yeti.
Which of your top fives did you feel the best about? Balls, brackets, baskets?
Or marches.
Or marches.
I think all four of them came out fabulously. The idea for this was Christopher's, but my execution was top notch. And I would not say that if I didn't believe it.
Will Lucille Ball appear in top 5 balls of all time?
Yeah, she was very important in my life. I love Lucy. I mean, Lucy and Ricky, that was ahead of its time. Ricky, a Cuban guy, speaking in a very thick accent, almost like Poppy, maybe more so. And that was a time in TV when there were very few people of color or, foreign nations on TV. So that was trailblazing. Lucille Ball, one of the great women, dynamic women of the entire 20th century. Politics, screen, no matter what the category is, she was just fantastic. So chances are, I'm hinting that she might have been one of the final 5 balls.
It seems like stronger than a hint. It suggests that if we tune in to the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody, there will be prominent placement where we would get some redundancy on what you just said about your admiration for Lucille Ball.
You want to reveal one of the baskets now? I feel like we've dipped our toe in each one. I don't know. I know the Lucille Ball. I don't want to give it away, but
I want to get to Billy's. I want to get to Billy's tournament here, which we have not updated, which begins on Thursday. Our March Sadness tournament that involves the fans. That's something that we must get to at some point today. But also, I wanted to get to the fact that Jessica spent an hour recently just listening to Jeremy. And that sounds like that could
awful.
Unless it's a
Hold
back
on.
and forth, just listening to him talk for an hour, listening to anybody talk for an hour can get droning.
Yeah, that's true, Dan. So yesterday, Lehman and I got tickets to Unrivaled, courtesy of DraftKings. It was the final. Wow. So we had to drive all the way to Medley, which is not a short drive in rush hour traffic. And Lehman turned on his favorite Knicks podcast because the Knicks were playing the Heat last night at Madison Square Garden. And we turned it on to the Knicks Film School, I think it's called. And Jeremy was the guest. And so we turned it on, and I was like, it'll be a short drive. We'll listen to 20 minutes of this. Well, no, it took like an hour and a half to get to Medley, which is like west of Doral. Like, it's not close. And so I listened to an entire hour of Jeremy break down the Miami Heat in the car while we sat in traffic in the baking hot afternoon sun.
Did you love it?
I want to do the bit and say, no, you're annoying. But it actually, when he's not being interrupted and purposely being annoying, it was pretty informative, I hate to say.
And how did that play out based on the results? Because the Heat, Tracy Morgan last night.
Yeah, well, Jeremy actually was 100% correct in his analysis of when the Heat lose every game. Jeremy, if you want to jump in here so I don't get it wrong. It's not that they're starting out the games and they're ass the entire 4 quarters. They're actually playing well, and then they sort of lose the plot in the second quarter and then get blown out in the third quarter.
That's exactly right. They start the game hot, starting lineup, kind of no matter what the starting lineup has been recently.
9-0.
Gets off to a hot
9-0 last
It was
night.
12-0 last night,
Wow.
and they were up, I believe, 27-14. And then they brought in a certain backup point guard, and things went awry, and all of a sudden it was 33-31. And this has been the issue for Miami. They go up 13, they go up 17, and they haven't been skilled enough to end teams early in the game, go up 25 or 30. They let teams get back into it, and you have a single-digit score at the half, and then everything goes awry in the second half.
So as an unbiased member of the media, would you say it's coaching is to blame, or is it roster construction, lack of talent? Like, as someone who's just, fairly judging the teams and their failures, what would you say is the reason, and how do you fix that?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, a little bit of column C. Everybody's failing right now. They've lost 8 games in a row. It's the most games in a row Eric Spoelstra's ever lost as a head coach.
Hot seat, or what
ever.
do you think?
No,
He sounds broken. He sounds sad. People are getting tired of the trust the process.
Jeremy, Cortez, who?
Who's broken and sad?
Eric Spoelstra sounds broken and sad. Let's play the sound of Eric Spoelstra sounding, we're pretty annoyed at this point hearing this coach talk with these words because it doesn't sound as brilliant or entertaining when they're not in the finals.
That's the thing that we've been racking our time, our brains, everything, trying to find solutions for that. We have not come up with solutions, and we've pretty much tried everything. That's why I say I haven't been able to come up with solutions for that. This has been one of the biggest challenges of a regular season that I've been a part of, and we just have to stay the course. This is the NBA. So we'll have another game on Wednesday night.
They have blown more leads than anybody in the league. They've now tied Utah for most blown double-digit leads. And as Jeremy mentioned, Eric Spoelstra has never lost this many games in a row, and he's wearing it.
Yeah, stay the course is sort of an odd thing to say.
Right.
Well, he's just used to saying it. Like there are certain phrases that he has. We could Jeremy.
avoid this course.
Jeremy, I believe a number of Heat fans can do a top 5 of phrases they are done hearing Eric Spoelstra say. But he's so used to saying it that yes, you need a different course. Go to a different course, whether it's a path or whether it's an instruction that someone's going to teach you. You're in the wrong course. You're in the wrong classroom.
Yeah. We have enough is one of his hits. They don't right now. No, you don't, Coach.
Right.
You don't have enough.
I do give him credit for honesty because as you said, you rarely hear any coach at any level in any sport say something to the effect, I'm out of answers. We've tried everything and nothing's working. Well, which is essentially what he said.
The last 2 games, they're not really in them. Like whether you start or not, you're losing the games by 20 points to Memphis and New York. That's different. There were a couple of odd basketball results last night, right? Denver ends up winning at Golden State.
Sucks for the Warriors, huh? They're terrible. Stinks for Jimmy Butler. Man, crazy. They lost a game.
Without Jokic
What?
and
This character.
without Jamal Murray. It's the one that, gets interrupted around here and isn't allowed to speak for an hour
Why are you
straight.
like this? You were so normal on that podcast.
I'm sorry. Everything's tough here.
Jamal Murray doesn't play. Jokic doesn't play. And then after the game, Kerr says of Curry, we need to get him rest. He's tired. Curry says, I'm not tired. My back hurts. And then Kerr says he's been carrying the team for a month. And then you get the weird result of Indiana beating Minnesota when everyone is watching Minnesota and saying, they might be playing recently over the last 6 weeks, like they can climb into a championship conversation that only has 4 or 5 teams in it. But Minnesota loses at home because, of course, Obi Toppin and Indiana. I would love to have Indiana as my team. I would love, if I can't have a championship team, something that looks or feels like Detroit or Indiana is something that I would love to be watching, falling in love with, because they can play in a game like that on the road against Minnesota and put up 132 points because they're going to get their offense against anybody.
What's crazy for Obi Toppin is he had a historic night last night in Pacers history. Not only did he hit the game winner, but he joined Paul George as the only Pacers ever to to have multiple games in a season with 30-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, and 5-plus made threes. Like, Obi Toppin is having one of the special Pacer seasons. It's so bizarre.
Maybe Mike tries to sell it now.
Oh, then
Better time than ever.
Dan, I feel like you could just jump on the Pacers bandwagon. Like, no one's going to judge you for it.
I feel like I just did.
Just do it.
I don't know whether you were jumping on the Unrivaled bandwagon last night, but was that your first game attending? Because what you got was a stunner in the final, right? Like, that's Nafisa Collier's team, the Owls. They had only lost one time all season, and they were leading in that game by 20 points. That is an inventive experiment, by the way, that John Skipper and others are investing in. Steph Curry is one of the investors as a made-for-television event that is allowed to, that is created to bolster an economy outside of the WNBA for women who are complaining about their pay, have been right to complain about their pay. And now, Reese and others are mentioning the idea of, creating a work stoppage in order to make sure they are paid better. So this league, as a made-for-television event, has been what kind of success can we say? Because in terms of conversation, they've gotten a lot of conversation. And if you don't need fans and are just existing as a tournament that's meant to be televised because people need programming, this seems like a smart idea with women who are underpaid, taking their fame, I've heard that they've got these great facilities and stuff, but there is a little bit of cabin fever because, as you said, it's Medley. It's not a part of Miami that anybody is traveling to for tourism. It's over by the airport. It's a place where my father grew up working in factories. There's just not a lot over there except for a number of enormously famous women basketball players who are better than most people in the world.
So the Vinyl upset the Owls in the semifinals. So last night was Rose versus Vinyl, and the Rose won. It's Chelsea Gray's team. She was the MVP of the final game. It was a lot of fun. Like you said, it's a made-for-TV event because it's not in a huge arena. It's in like a soundstage, and there's not, I don't know the total seat count, but it's very small. But the in-arena atmosphere is actually really fun, and there were tons of fans there. It was just a really entertaining environment. Tons of celebrities there. Dwayne Wade and Gabby Union were there. Asia Wilson was there. Francis Tiafoe was there. There's a lot of celebrities courtside watching the final last night. So it was really fun. I think the basketball itself has been really fun to watch because it's 3-on-3, but it's not half court 3-on-3. It's like a condensed 2/3 court. They have a target score fourth quarter, ending. So every game ends on a buzzer beater or a game-winning shot, which is really exciting. The pace of play is really fast because it's 3-on-3. So they're, constantly running the court. And so it's been really fun to watch. It's been fun to watch the sort of crossover teammate, teammates that have never played together before coming together and playing together on a team like this in this small setting is cool. So I think fans have really enjoyed it, especially because usually in the WNBA offseason, your favorite players are abroad. You might not get to watch all of their games. And so this has been on TV a couple nights a week and has been easy to follow. And there's tons of engagement coming out of it. And I think from what I understand, the players feel they're getting an ownership stake in the league. So they feel a sense of ownership over it and making it fun for the fans. And I think you can really tell that this is a fun thing to get people engaged and get people excited about. It made me really excited for the start of the WNBA season.
It is easier, obviously, to just take a couple of concentrated months where you can make some money outside of the season and you don't have to go and run the risk of ending up in a Russian jail the way Brittany Griner did because you're trying to get money overseas because they pay better overseas. But when you say it's a soundstage, a warehouse, do you feel while you're in it that it's not quite an arena, that the fans make it an arena or the environment makes it an arena, but that you might as well be on the soundstage of a game show?
No, actually, they make it really feel like it's an arena. It's just not, it's not 20,000 people. It's 1,000 people or whatever it is. But there are some really bad in-arena DJs and entertainment in basketball. I will not name names, but whoever they have doing all of the in-game stuff for Unrivaled is very good at it. So it doesn't feel like you're on a TV set at all. It actually just feels like you're in a small arena. I've been to a number of college basketball games in the last year, and this Unrivaled in stadium or in arena was much more lively and exciting, and was like a fraction of the number of people that have been at those games. So I really enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect because it is not a lot of people, and like the farthest seat from the court is, I think they said 20 feet away. Like it's really, really close. But the energy is great. I mean, 3-on-3 basketball is really fun. I enjoyed watching it during the Olympics this past summer, so I was a little bit familiar with like how the pace of play works. But this is not quite the same rules as that. This is more of a full court experience. So I just really enjoyed, like, Chelsea Gray is, I think, like the perfect athlete for this format because she's so good at like shot creation. She can shoot from anywhere on the court. She can pass really well. And so I think it was very fitting that her team won and she was the MVP. Angel Reese was out last night because she re-injured her wrist, I believe. But she was the defensive player of the year in Unrivaled. And so that was, she helped that team get to the, championship game. So it was a bummer that she wasn't there. But I think, it just sort of highlights different characteristics of players that maybe don't always come out in 5-on-5 basketball, and like really shows how different skills are more important there. And like being able to play two ways in 3-on-3 is super important because you're constantly hustling back and forth. It's an 18-second shot clock. It's moving really, really fast. You're just running up and down the court like constantly.
It's amazing that the league was this successful after they tried so hard and offered the moon to Caitlin Clark to play. And she's really the one prominent player who said no thanks. But it was a great season anyway. Good for the league that the Lunar Owls lost because most of the regular season, it looked like they were going to waltz to the championship almost uncontested. They were 13-1. The next best record in the regular season was 7-7. They ran away with it. And the fact that they lost in the semis was great. But that place seats 850 people, and I don't know how they can sustain that formula. Because the bigger they get, the more popular they get. There's going to be a demand beyond the
I will keep saying to you guys that the future of sports doesn't require fans to be in attendance, and it doesn't even require fans to be watching on television. It's just all programming, and the television streamers need the programming. Sports is one of the few places where people tune in at the appointed time. Like, there's so few right now. What are they? Name all of the others. Like, I know occasionally Max has on Sunday nights something that everyone's watching, whether it's Game of Thrones. Actually, you'd be surprised how low the numbers are on something like Succession or something like White Lotus. But I don't even know what I would say. Is it award shows? What in programming, what is second place to sports on thing that you do, not on your time? You go and make sure that you are there. America goes and makes sure it is at the television when sports or something like sports summons us. It's no longer, we have moved so far everywhere in America into convenience. Bezos is basically everything that he is because he's better at convenience than everyone else. So what's second place here on something that all of you feel like you have to watch and be a part of at the time? The watch, so that you can talk about it with your friends as it's happening and you don't feel like you're left behind by it.
Jeremy said like maybe award shows fit in that category because I think like the reason sports are unique is because you obviously don't want to know who wins it like after it happens. Like if you don't watch it live, then it gets spoiled for you, and other things don't. So you can watch it on your own time unless you're listening to this show and you haven't seen The Righteous Gemstones or White Lotus yet, in which case it will get spoiled for you on Monday morning.
Yeah, you spoiled Gemstones.
But
yeah.
I think you did.
Because there's a frontal nudity
yes,
scene, full frontal.
It would have been better if I didn't know it was coming. But I knew it was coming, and I was like, there's going to be a penis soon. And then I saw it, and I was like, well, I knew that was going to happen. I was still like, oh my God. But it would have been different if I didn't know. Anyways, I think Unrivaled is different, though, Dan, because like it's a limited season. It's not like the full year. It's very like small, and I think it works for what they're trying to create. I think that like if the WNBA went to empty arenas and empty stadiums and no one was watching it, like, yeah, that would matter, and it would suck for fans. Like, I think the reason that the WNBA has been so excited is they have been packing arenas. They've been breaking attendance records in various cities. So I think, having fans at the games does still really matter to the television.
Oh, I agree. No, but it doesn't matter to the business. That's all. It doesn't matter all that much to the business.
Well, and when you're talking about trying to get eyeballs at a specific time, like Netflix is trying this right now. Last week, they debuted John Mulaney's new show, Everybody's Live, where they took something that they did for a week and had people tuning in every night for 1 week. Now I believe this is going to be a 12-week run where every Wednesday night they're doing something live. And the way they're producing that show is such honestly, not dissimilar to this, where it's this high wire act of, are they going to mess something up? And watching that live, I find myself, as someone who knows I could watch it the next day or the day after, purposefully tuning in live because I kind of want to see if they can pull it off. And that type of programming is interesting, seeing a late night show that is putting themselves in the position to not just be clips.
I thought something interesting that happened recently because of all the money that Netflix is pouring into live and the danger of live. I saw that Kill Tony is now doing a version of its show for Netflix that begins in April, and that Kill Tony's fans are beside themselves with anger about having to share that with the biggest thing, with that they feel that Kill Tony will end up getting diluted by whatever they believe, I guess, is the corporate interference of Netflix, an interference that they're assuming that I have yet to see play out anywhere with Netflix in terms of content control. I found myself actually confused, even while understanding that when you have your own little thing, that when you have the indie band and then everyone makes the indie band popular, it can be something that first arrivers don't like so much. I found confusing. Do any of you like Kill Tony, watch Kill Tony, or fear that Kill Tony will be diluted by the Netflix experience? Because it's something I'm hearing a lot about, but I'm not a Kill Tony person.
I've seen clips of it. I don't watch episodes, but yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's just audiences want their thing to be theirs.
It's also oversight, right? Like, we all saw what happened when Tony Hinchcliffe got a national microphone and the way that people reacted to that. And I would imagine the people watching Kill Tony who hear those types of jokes all the time know that when it gets to mainstream and when it gets to Netflix, either some of that stuff around the periphery is going to get squashed out in the mainstream or it's going to kill Tony.
Okay, so that fear...
What are you doing, Dad?
Wasn't it prevalent for Pat McAfee as well? And has it to date not been misguided, that particular fear of, now it's going to become a corporate thing and change, but it hasn't actually changed, right? Like
McAfee's tame in comparison to what we're talking about.
Okay, but not tame for Disney.
But he's gotten away with a lot of stuff that normally wouldn't have happened at Disney. And then there were also conversations about Aaron Rodgers and others that changed because he was there. At the very least, it becomes a controversy, even if the end result remains the same way, right?
Okay, but whether there's a controversy or not, has it actually been changed? Do McAfee fans who feared that Disney would ruin their thing that curses and behaves differently and is outside of the mainstream, that fear to date has been misguided, has it not? Like, I understand why it is that people would fear corporate oversight. I don't understand why anyone would fear Netflix's corporate oversight. They have been a leader in terms of allowing comedians to do whatever the hell comedians want to do.
I think that's totally fair. You're right. And in that respect, I don't know that anything will change. I just think that I would imagine most of the people who have that specific niche audience that's watching Kill Tony on a regular basis are probably looking at any sort of corporation, any sort of mainstream anything, and what it's been for the last decade or so would mean that some of those jokes that are made on their show wouldn't get to a national platform. I think we've seen a shift. I think we've seen a shift in what's allowed and what's prevalent in our modern conversation, so maybe they won't have an issue.
I don't know Kill Tony from Adam. I assume it's a very popular person or thing. So if you're Netflix buying that, why would you change what you know to be successful? If I'm Netflix, I'm saying, hey, kill Tony. Not only don't change, turn up the volume.
I don't think they're saying that.
I mean, why wouldn't they? They know what they're buying. Controversy is good for business.
I would be like, let's keep the volume right where you have it. We don't want to change you, but let's not go louder. Let's
I'm just
keep
saying,
it right here.
It's good for business, right?
Attention,
controversy?
Attention at the moment. I don't know that there's anything, including currency, more valuable as a currency made valuable by younger generations that make everything popular, and just something that is valuable from everyone, from Kill Tony to Elon Musk. No matter how much money you have, it appears to me that attention is the currency of the day.
My Zion take, huh? Ahead of its time.
That has aged so well.
I mean,
he's so right.
That was 7 years ago. You're just like, what are you guys talking about? any pub is good pub.
Again, not good for Nike.
No, great for Nike. Everybody was talking about Nike. That's all that matters.
Nike. Yeah.
Not good for Nike to...
Oh, Nike, you're right. They've been really hurting.
Not good for Nike to have a shoe be something that could possibly injure the foot of Zion Williamson by not behaving as a competent shoe.
Although we've come to the end of the road of Unrivaled, it's gonna be all good. The Vinyl going for the championship tonight against the Rose. I think I'm just on the camera playing with these basketballs. Run up on me. You might lose. Let me interview the shoes. How y'all feel about being here tonight, man? Yep, me too. We got the big dog.
You know, we got to shout out 305 Unrivaled. They're doing it big, so we had to come celebrate the championship. You know what's up?
I'm just so thrilled to be here. So excited.
Hell yeah, man. Oh my goodness. Got the camera. Give me another hug. For the first Unrivaled dog, how you doing? How does it feel to be here tonight? Don't get it. Look, the dog done got me in the mouth. I need some Listerine.
I can feel the energy in the air. I feel the excitement from the fans.
It's nothing like women power.
Yeah.
And seeing the athleticism in these women, they ain't playing like the men.
Who you got tonight, the Vinyl or the Rose?
I think I might have to go with the Rose, only because it's aces and 4 all day.
Go Rose, go Rose.
Go Rose.
So excited. Vinyl. Vinyl.
The Vinyl?
Vinyl, yes, yes.
You gonna go Vinyl? You go, what about you, sis?
Rose.
Okay. What about you, brother? The Rose? What about you? Rose, yes, sir. Look, a lot of Rose fans in the building. You know, my heart and soul is with the East Vinyl tonight. I hear the national anthem being sung right now. That means it's almost game time. Man, salute to all the energy in the building, brother and sisters. How you feel about the action tonight so far?
Man, the future is unrivaled. It's so dope. Women's basketball, the best ever.
Yep.
The way they've been playing tonight is nothing but top notch.
Go Rose, go Rose. But I love the Vinyl too. I love them all.
Chelsea Gray just hit a half-court buzzer beater to end the third quarter. Good God Almighty, I cannot breathe. Uh-oh. You know what that means. Oh. What a moment in history / herstory. The Rose are your first champions of the inaugural season of the Unrivaled League. Coach got the trophy. Look at the trophy. It look like a Game of Thrones trophy right there. Hey, man.
Such a sick game. Oh, my God. Rose
Come on, man.
made history. History.
We gonna give Sis her flowers on camera for being one of the pioneers for stuff just like this.
And let me listen, since we giving flowers, man, this man be at Dream Game season ticket member. He ain't new to this. And then now he pulling up to Unrivaled, wherever women's sports is at, he been a supporter. So I always appreciate guys like you that some guys be thinking they too cool for school. Juju be down with it. So we down with Ju always. This is my comeback kid, man. Don't play. I don't play about this one. All right.
And with that being said, we're going to wrap this season up of Unrivaled, the inaugural season. You feel me? Congratulations to the Rose. Man, see you next year. Same bat time, same bat channel. You dig it?
Juju did a great job with all of that Unrivaled stuff. It is a great idea. Just a couple of concentrated months of basically it's the bubble. It's put all of these players in a part of town that they would not normally be and just intensely have them compete and do work and make more money on the side. As part of our 20-year anniversary celebration, because many of you are demanding more Stugotz, we expect him back soon, but he's following his daughter around the country. Where was he the other day? I asked this yesterday. He was along the college baseball path for some reason, and I was not surprised when I saw him in Syracuse, given that one of his daughters goes to Syracuse, but I was surprised to see him at a college baseball game.
You're asking us if we know where Stugotz is?
It looked like a Northwestern baseball field. It was the standard patent Stugotz two-armed selfie where he's clearly holding his phone with two arms. God, I love that. It's adorable every time, I have to admit. But yeah, I have no idea where he currently is.
As part of the, were you going to say something there, Billy, before you take?
No.
All right,
no.
good. All right, good. I'm glad that you just looked like you were going to say something and then didn't say anything. Let's go to a behind the bit here as part of our 20-year celebration. Stump the Meech is always something that is popular. John Amici, one of our most popular guests, one of our smartest guests, can never tell what Stugotz is saying.
This is behind the bit. This is behind the bit. This is behind the bit.
For the past 20 years, you've seen and heard bits on the Dan Le Batard Show. You may have wondered to yourself, what are these bits? And what's wrong with these people?
Who is John Amici?
John Amici was a former NBA player and just a very intellectual man who, I don't want to say doesn't have a sense of humor, because I don't think that's fair to John, but John takes himself more seriously than we would take ourselves, I would say. And John Amici is someone who would probably not be hanging out in the same circles as Stugotz, per se. So he's a very well-read man. He wasn't knighted officially, but he has like a British royal title of sorts, and just is into very smart things that go above the heads of all of us.
Levy scored the first ever points at the Miami Heat's newer arena. He was a close friend of Dan's. He made headlines once he retired when he penned a book where he came out to the nation. John Amici had a really strong relationship with Dan. They were good friends, and he was someone that was always so intelligent and wonderful to have them weigh in on big, important societal topics on our show. You can never have enough smart people surround your show, especially when you have Stugotz there weighing the median average down.
John, when he met Dan, took him to a gay bar. And Dan did not know that he was gay, despite bringing him to a gay bar. He didn't suspect that. Like, oh, it's just a place to go. Like, okay. But yeah, that was pretty funny, thinking about that. But yeah, like, John is, just like Bomani, one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. He's a constant ally, and we are an ally of him, and just all around good man.
So we thought, let's play a game and waste John's time and have him try to figure out what it is that Stugotz, who's not well-read, what he's trying to say
mid-sentence, mid-thought. Sometimes he just ejects in the middle of the word. Sometimes he just mispronounces words. So what we would do is we would save a bunch of clips of Stugotz just not saying words the right way, and then horrify John Amici, who speaks perfect English. And John was terrible at this game. And I think he was frustrated because, you know, as an NBA player, as someone who's a successful businessman, he has succeeded at many things in life. And this is just one that we knew he was not going to succeed at. And I think it drove him nuts that this dumb game always got the best of him. And it was really unfair. I mean, some of the words that we would play for him are 4 or 5 syllable words that Stugotz would condense down into 1 syllable and then move on to his next train of thought. So John never really stood a chance in this game.
What is the first mispronunciation from Stugotz?
Dallas. Dallas or analysis? See, I think it's Dallas, but that's too simple. Analysis?
That's what I would have guessed.
Wow, spot on.
That would have been my guess.
Formula. It's either formula, but having said that, I can't imagine a context in which Stugotz would have to say that word. Formidable.
All right, you are overthinking this.
I think it's formidable.
Despite Dan trying to help you out, it is formula.
Oh, no.
No.
Drum.
Well, come on now.
Drum.
I've absolutely got nothing.
Drawer.
That is a tragedy right there.
Hermaphrodites.
Oh.
Hermaphrodites.
Hermaphrodites.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Ah, there we go.
Of course. Of course. What do you mean? Oh, God.
Oh, I hate you so much right now.
Merce.
Is it most or is it... Well, that's not my final answer. I'm going to go with mist.
It's most.
Oh, my God. Holy shit.
I was robbed.
You were not robbed. You made your
I
own
was
decisions.
robbed. I'm sorry, that was robbed.
You made your own life choices. You had victory in your hands and you let it go.
How did this one start?
Stugotz just pronounces things very poorly for a broadcaster.
And John Amici is so smart, so the idea of him trying to guess what language it is I'm speaking.
Yes.
And what words are coming out of my mouth is funny.
It's such a great idea because all it is us taking things that have been said in the natural flow of Stugotz broadcasting as Stugotz, and he doesn't finish all of his words, and he tries to get to the next thought a little faster before he's finished the other one.
Small windows.
And so words get jumbled up, and so we had an endless library of things that Stugotz had mispronounced.
What I always loved about that segment is Mike would give him an easy one, like a fastball right down the middle, just so he can gain some confidence to think this is the time I'm going to win the game. Meech has never won the game. Did he win once?
Well, he claims that he's
won
won.
once. I'm not
The
certain.
only times he's won is when we've made terrible mistakes somehow.
Right.
It's not because he ever deserves to win.
But Mike would groove the first 1 or 2 in, and then the next 3, change-ups, curveballs, everything.
Impossible.
And Meech is swinging and flailing and falling to the ground.
Yes.
And you can't win.
He can't win
I'm
that
undefeated.
game. He always wins.
Dan and Stu talked about it being like a palate cleanser. Did you create this bit, Mike?
I just knew that we needed a device. Our show is really good at getting people in the tent and with nonsense. And then while they're in the tent, we'll have an important discussion. And you're going to be sitting there not really understanding what you're sitting through because we've already put it in your head that we're just going from laugh to laugh and there's going to be important societal discussions along the way, but you're going to enjoy the journey. So we knew that we needed to do something to dress it up. We had come up with games to play with guests. There was this game that we had called Douche or No Douche that we had in our back pocket anytime we needed to spruce up an interview or we weren't exactly sure where to take the interview. And I really liked having that as a device. And I knew, given how strong Dan and John's relationship was and knowing how playful John was and how much he liked our show and liked Stugotz as a character, I knew he'd be down for this. So it was all about tracking the mispronunciations as they would happen. And we started building up quite the arsenal. I'm proud of that folder. Roy had a very good ear for it. We'd all kind of mark it, like anytime Stugotz misspoke, put that in the Stump the Meech file. And we had to immediately write down what we thought Stugotz was trying to say, because absent context, there was no way that we were going to figure out what Stugotz was going to say. I mean, some of these clips were really ridiculous.
I mean, after 20 minutes of super serious conversation with Dan, you need something.
Yes,
I mean, anything.
we would. A little. It's a little bit of sorbet, a little bit of sorbet at the end of a societal conversation that makes your head hurt.
It was like a treat for a dog.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you for giving us 20 minutes of serious shit. Here's Stugotz.
Elle Duncan is going to be here shortly. We should play Douche or No Douche with her. We have not done that game in a while. I want to play for the audience some sound here of a West Virginia politician, the governor, Patrick Morrisey, really just pandering. It's a great way to get your constituency on your side to stand in front of a sign that says National Corrupt Athletic Association, the NCAA. This is West Virginia's governor going very strong at North Carolina and the NCAA tournament for a West Virginia school that probably could have made the tournament if in the first game of their conference tournament they hadn't lost to 3-17 Colorado.
West Virginia deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. This was a miscarriage of justice and robbery at the highest levels. Now, who was the last team to get into the tournament? Ahead of the Mountaineers. That would be the University of North Carolina. Now, let's see how their resume stacks up. The Tar Heels went 1-12 in quad 1 games and even had a quad 3 loss.
Jessica, why are you making a face? The National Corrupt Athletic Association is the sign that he's standing in front of.
If you were a player on West Virginia, this would embarrass you, right? Like you don't want this. No. Like obviously you want to make the tournament, but you didn't. You lost some games that you needed to win to make it in. But then if you saw this, you'd be like, okay, wait, can we just back up a second?
You think so? You think that the players don't appreciate some support that they probably agree with?
I agree with Jess. I think it's an embarrassment to the university that maybe if the athletic director wants to say that or the head coach, that's their domain. But the governor, hey, governor, you don't have anything more important going on in your state that you need to worry about than one of your college teams making the tournament?
They're a sub-500 team since January 1st. Like this is, I understand being upset that, we do this in college football all the time, the teams that don't get in and the head coach or the athletic director or the conference commissioner advocates for them and goes on ESPN and complains and blah, blah, blah. But like the governor of the state is doing it, and it's like that. If I were a player, I would be like, okay, you know what? Fair, but I should have made my free throws.
Yeah, that's beneath the governor's office. It really is. I'm not even saying that as a bit.
It's not just that he's saying it. It's the language is so strong on what he's saying. Like, what are you actually saying for things that are miscarriages of justice that are egregious as opposed to this one that begins with you losing your last game to a team that was 3-17?
West Virginia deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. This was a miscarriage of justice and robbery at the highest levels. Now, who was the last team to get into the tournament? Ahead of the Mountaineers. That would be the University of North Carolina. Now, let's see how their resume stacks up. The Tar Heels went 1-12 in quad 1 games and even had a quad 3 loss.
The rest of politics is so pure these days that really stands out as shameless.
That's true. Yeah. Also, Ron DeSantis did get involved when Florida State got snubbed from the CFP last year. Which, again, if I were a Florida State player, I'd probably be like,
Getting involved is different than calling it the height of robbery.
Yeah, and standing behind the word corrupt.
No government officials had to get involved when UCF claimed their national championship. You just go ahead, you take it from the people, you claim what's rightfully yours, and you move on with your head held high.
No politician thought that you could get a single vote based on supporting UCF during its undefeated season with pandering.
And here's one more thing for the governor of West Virginia. If I'm on the selection committee and it's a tiebreaker, this school or that school for the last invitation, gee, it's a no-brainer that you're going to take North Carolina, which has a rich history in college basketball, over West Virginia. So West Virginia blew this on different
but
levels.
that's not fair.
No, but I think also like North Carolina was one lane violation from beating Duke. Like that, I understand why people are mad North Carolina got in, but also like they played well in the conference tournament and they almost upset the best team in the conference. So I understand it. Like obviously you have to make hard choices when you're talking about bubble teams in any sport. Like you're splitting hairs, right? Because if they were for sure in the tournament, you wouldn't have to have this debate about them being on the bubble or not. But you're splitting hairs between quad 2 wins, quad 1 wins, net rankings, all this conference tournaments, upsets, who they've lost to, how many losses they have. Like, there's never going to be a great option. And I understand people are mad because Bubba Cunningham as the athletic director at North Carolina. I understand all of that. I do understand why fans are upset about that. But, like, we are sort of splitting hairs here.
Okay, it's always splitting hairs when you get between 68 and 69, and it's subjective. But I'm surprised to hear Greg Cody say what he's saying, which is, merit doesn't matter. It's just North Carolina won a lot 10 years ago, so therefore they should be rewarded this year. I thought, I understand what you're saying, and it's the same thing that Taylor said yesterday when he's like, we're North Carolina and you're Boise State, but it's supposed to be merit-based. Sports is supposed to be based on were you good this year or not were you good 20 years ago.
I think one of the weird things about the North Carolina thing, too, right, is that this is like one of those weird play-ins that they become an 11 seed. Yeah. So they're not even necessarily one of the best 64, but if they then win, they're worst case, the 44th best team.
Okay, they get in. Correct me if I'm wrong. They get in if they win that last game against a team with a 3-17 record.
Colorado,
right?
Yes.
Okay,
they
so
would have gotten in.
Zip your lip, Governor.
There it is.
You had a chance to get in.
Just one of the lips.
And you blew it.
Right.
Also, North Carolina is not even in the bubble conversation if they upset Duke, I think, which we saw the end. That was a devastating way for that game to end, and I'm glad on that player's behalf it wasn't his last college basketball game because it was tough. It was a tough scene.
I have a fun stat. Billy said that if North Carolina wins, they become an 11 seed. 11 seeds over the past 10 tournaments have a winning record against the 6 seeds. So if you're making your brackets out there, look for those 11 seeds.
I also have a correction from earlier. We mentioned Duke, and Chris Cody and I were both pretty sure that Nike benefited from Zion Williamson. Quick correction. That game was on February 20th, 2019. By February 25th, 2019, Nike had lost $1.1 billion in stock.
What about a year after? Let's go the long-term effect on it. No?
Another correction that we want to make is that we said yesterday on the show that the Michigan baseball player who we think tripled and then tried to snort the third base line, we did not think that was going first to third on a single to right field. We didn't think it was stealing third base. We thought it was a triple and then snorting the third base line. That player is now apologizing for his behavior. I would like to apologize for my actions on third base yesterday. I made an immature decision in the heat of the moment. The gesture I made does not reflect my character, the household I was raised in, or the Block M that I represent in any kind of way. I take full responsibility for what I did, and I am truly sorry to all those who I have negatively impacted by doing this. How many were negatively impacted? Can we get, by the way, the video of that to show of him clearly? And now we have confirmation because you guys were saying maybe he wasn't doing what it looked like he was doing. He was indeed snorting or pretending to snort the third base line. Who did that negatively impact?
My children were sobbing at the TV. They were so upset.
I don't know about you guys, but I accept his apology. Let's let him have a second chance. Who's with me?
Okay, very good, Chris. It's good that you're forgiving. Billy, you mentioned earlier Tracy Morgan, and you didn't offer anything in the way of context for anybody in terms of details. He threw up during the game yesterday of the Knicks and the Heat, and then had to leave during the game. And he has battled an assortment of health stuff. So I don't want to make any fun of this, but I don't know any of the details except what I just said to you.
Yeah, from what I came out yesterday, it seemed like he had a nosebleed and he started throwing up. He was courtside, he was throwing up on the court. There was a delay, and yeah, unfortunately, he's been dealing with a lot of stuff, so we shouldn't make light of the situation. So I also want to apologize for anyone that may have taken offense to my actions earlier and may have been negatively impacted by what I said. And I represent the Block M here as well, and I don't want to really be representing things that way. So I'm sorry.
Did he throw up on the court?
Yeah, on the
very
court.
graphic.
It
We're not
delayed the
gonna
game.
we're not gonna show it because it's
ugly.
Yeah,
And the nosebleed. Wow.
It delayed the game for like 10 minutes too, and then he had to get wheeled out in a wheelchair. It was very, not
He's.
great.
I'm concerned about him.
Same.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you got to be.
Speaking of the Block M, Mitch Voigt, so he issues this apology, right? That was 23 hours ago as of right now, but 16 hours ago, he's then named Big Ten Player of the Week. So I sort of wonder, was it like a, hey, you're going to be named Big Ten Player of the Week, but we need you to apologize first. But over the weekend, he had 5 doubles, 12 ribbies, 6 runs scored, 12 hits. He had a 667 batting average. It was amazing.
The conference dangles Player of
Yeah.
the Week over his head and is like, you got to apologize. What?
I'm just saying, look, Michigan might not have wanted that representing their Big Ten Player of the Week, and they said, hey, you represent the Block M.
Yeah,
and
without
you need
him,
to do this.
without him, no one would associate Michigan and cocaine.
I think the funny thing about his apology, right, is like the people that would have been offended by what he was doing, you'd then have to explain to them what he was doing and why they should be offended by what he was doing, right? Like, so if it's like, oh, think of the children, it's like, so you're going to sit down children, you're going to explain cocaine use to children and why this is a problematic action by him?
The worst possible apology, quote unquote, is when you say something like he did, which is, oh, that's not me. That's not part of my character. That's not who I am. Yeah, apparently it was because you did it. He's not 15 years
careful
old.
here.
Okay, if somebody in high school does that, they have the immaturity excuse. 5 years later, that card doesn't play as well.
He didn't actually say it. It was just the Notes app apology that I read.
Apparently,
So,
we all don't forgive him.
yeah, not everyone is in a forgiving mood around here. You guys were fine, but it would appear that Greg Cody is not quite as lenient as you guys are about Michigan baseball and snorting third base lines. He is taking a hard stance on this, and he thinks this is the problem with America, is that you guys accept these apologies and then go straight to forgiveness after someone has snorted the third base line.
Have you ever done a Notes app apology, Dad?
I don't know what Notes app means.
Okay.
This kid was
What does
born
it
in
mean?
2004. I feel like he can get away with the immaturity excuse.
Yeah? Okay, so he's 21.
That's a ridiculous age to be born
Not
in.
even 21 yet.
Okay.
People born in the 2000s, mid 2000s in college.
He
now.
might not have even lost his
Absurd.
virginity yet.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about when everybody else lost their virginity.
Dan, you go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would have been my junior year of college. How old was I in my junior year?
you were
of
my
college?
age.
Yeah, 20,
This guy.
19.
I mean, no, it's not 20. It's
20.
19, 20.
You were a junior at 19?
Yeah, something like
Did you
that.
skip your sophomore year or what?
But now you have your answer. Now what do? You just stare at me and imagine me having sex?
No, I'd
Okay,
rather
good.
not.
I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
It's good for the whole audience. You guys mentioned not playing the video of Tracy Morgan throwing up. Is that something that also would risk making others throw up? If you, what are the things in both video form or in community that are contagious? Like yawning is said to be contagious. Is vomiting something that can be contagious? If I show you video of someone vomiting, am I going to get others all of a sudden vomiting? You guys have decided as a editorial decision not to play Tracy Morgan vomiting.
I'm glad we make those. I didn't know we actually did that around here. That's good. Hey, video team, pat yourselves on the back. Or Chris, whoever did that.
I feel bad for the person 2 seats down who paid, $1,800 for courtside seats.
That's a great story,
and all
though.
of a sudden he's smelling the vomit of a famous person.
Imagine like the conversations that will start though years down the road of I was at that game. Oh, remember when he threw up? I was 2 seats over. Smelled terrible.
The person 2 seats over is like Ben Stiller, so.
When Greg Cody says that he doesn't know what a notes app is, I wanted to ask you guys a question based on a story I was telling a couple of weeks ago around here. I had mentioned the Monday night game in which Derek Thomas was ejected because he just kept getting penalties because of whatever it is that Shannon Sharp was saying to him. And Shannon Sharp has said that he will never reveal what it is that was being said in that game that made Derek Thomas so insane. But some others have speculated, whether it is true or not, that it was a trash talk that involved a woman, and more specifically, that it was just him repeating a telephone number over and over again. Now, again, I don't know what is true here, but I want to ask Greg Cody and the rest of you, do you guys know any telephone numbers anymore? Do you any of you know telephone numbers? Because I know about 3 or 4 important telephone numbers, and then if my iCloud wasn't backing stuff up, I would be proper bleeped on just about everything because I don't know any telephone numbers. How many telephone numbers do you guys know?
I know my childhood house one. I know my wife's number. Yep. I know my dad's number and my mom. Yep.
Just the emergency numbers, right?
Yeah, and sharing contacts. You're right. We've lost this.
Yeah, that's true.
We've lost all our recipes. At Le Batard Show, put it on the poll. Do you know any telephone numbers? Yes or no? Elle Duncan joins us now. We're going to talk tournament and other stuff with her because I just enjoy talking to her about anything that's going on. Do you want to play that sound for her, Chris Cody, of the last time she was on and she called you something that is not your name so that we can get a formal apology that you have not yet forgiven her for?
Yeah, the last time Elle joined us off air before we started, I was like, oh, hey, Elle, how's it going? And she said this.
Oh, hey, what's up, Greg?
She called me Greg.
Good
That's my
mistake.
dad's name.
I like that.
I get it.
I
but
forgive her.
It's just, now Jessica makes me play this sound like once a week.
Oh, hey, what's up, Greg? Oh, hey, Greg.
To my defense, I think I was looking at your dad. I know that you're Chris. I know that. But I think I was looking at your dad, and then I heard. So I was like, what's up, Greg?
There you go.
That's a good attempt at a save, but I don't think he was in that
Yeah,
day.
he wasn't in that day.
Yeah.
That's okay, though. It was good. It's good work by you. It's all right.
Hey, what's up, Greg?
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I was in that day. A hologram of me was sitting here.
Yeah. Sorry. I love you, Chris. I love all the Codys. I'm sorry. It's fine. Listen, the other day I called my husband Xander, who's my son, and it creeped him out, so don't feel bad.
Do you have any telephone numbers? How many telephone numbers does Elle Duncan know?
Yeah, I was shaking my head going like this when you were asking that question. I know. Same thing as Chris, not Greg. I know my childhood.
Hey, what's up, Greg?
I know my childhood numbers for a house that no one lives at anymore. And then I know my husband's, my mom, and my dad's. And that would be it for me. So anybody else, like if I don't have my phone, I'm effed.
I actually remember the phone number of my childhood house, 1440, which I haven't lived in 55 years.
Put it on the
50
poll as well. I think most people might. At Le Batard Show, do you remember the number at your original home at Le Batard Show? Yes or no is the question. Elle, how often do you use your phone as a phone? Because one of the things that I'm super interested in as we've evolved is the sheer number of people who get annoyed when their phone rings like a phone and have no interest in actually using it as anything other than a computer.
I realized I was washed maybe I've known that I'm washed, but I realized like a couple months ago, my phone started ringing and I was like, who the is calling me this late? It was like 7:45. So I don't like when people call me. And then it also annoys me when people text me. So in general, I'm learning I just don't like communication with people at all.
I should tell people, incidentally, that she's obviously been a mainstay on SportsCenter for nearly a decade. She's the host of the Elle Duncan Show on ESPN, and she's leading ESPN's coverage on the NCAA Division I women's basketball tournament beginning Wednesday, March 19th. And the tournament is featuring more games on ABC and ESPN than ever before. How are you seeing the change around your coverage? Because ESPN has been the exclusive home for almost 30 years for the women's tournament. So what have you seen change over the last 10 years?
I think probably the outside interests, like me and Andrea Carter and Chinea Gumake were on Good Morning America yesterday, and like real GMA, not like GMA3 or GMA Weekend, like proper one, like sitting across from Robin Roberts. So I would say that, like people wanting to have us at events or wanting me to host events purely because of my connection to women's basketball. I think, you guys have all been in the industry a long time. You always had to come into whatever respective network it was promising that you knew NFL, that you knew maybe NBA, like you had to cover the men's sports, and then women's sports were always an add-on, right? It was like, okay, and then in addition to your main stuff, you'll dabble in women's sports. And now we're starting to see, I think, networks, ESPN and other ones as well, that are staffing specifically for women, that are giving it to people as their full-time jobs as opposed to an add-on or a side hustle that they do. So in terms of what I do, I think it's just not just the interest, but the resources behind it. Like the women's, even when I took on this space 4 years ago, it was sort of a breeding ground for like new people. It's like you come and like you learn your chops and you go through your whatever on the women's side. And now we're getting, the best of everyone, the best graphics people, the best researchers, the best producers. So I just think it's how much more interest, but also just how much more resources are put behind it.
I want to play for you some sound from West Virginia's governor here standing in front of a sign, the National Corrupt Athletic Association, here to get both your reaction to this and to ask you whether the women's game has had more controversy than the men's game this year, because this is the big controversy from the men's game.
West Virginia deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. This was a miscarriage of justice and robbery at the highest levels. Now, who was the last team to get into the tournament ahead of the Mountaineers? That would be the University of North Carolina. Now, let's see how their resume stacks up. The Tar Heels went 1-12 in Quad 1 games and even had a Quad 3 loss.
What are you laughing about, Elle?
So silly. This is so silly. I love when politicians try to cosplay as like irrational, angry fans. How many West Virginia games we think that dude's watched this year? Like how where's West Virginia in terms of public school rankings? Because I think they're like 35th in the United States. Where's your outrage for that? Like, where's your outrage for literally anything else that's happening in the country right now? But this is your sticking point. Like, you're pissed about this. Here's what I would say. If you want to leave no doubt, that is completely in your hands to leave absolutely no doubt. You either build that resume throughout the year or you win your respective conference tournament, and then you don't have to worry about the corrupt committee. I don't agree with a lot of their opinions. I know that a lot of this is because I believe the AD for UNC is the committee chair, and this happens across all of sports, is that if there's a selection committee, they typically come from a school. They're supposed to excuse themselves when it comes to these conversations. But the truth is, like, anybody in this space, Dan called this a little bit ago. We had Tom Crean on our show just the other day before the UNC Duke game, and he basically said, like, if UNC fights a little bit and tries hard, if all things are equal, they're always going to go with a blue blood. And that's because of ratings, right? Like, they're always going to go with a blue blood team like a UNC with the hopes that they'll face a Duke, and that would be a ratings bonanza. Do I think that UNC was deserving based on their resume? Not really. I think they're 1-12 in Quad 1 wins. Nobody even knows what that actually means. But like whenever politicians do this, it's so annoying to me because you don't care. You don't actually care. You're just trying to rally up your base, curry a little bit of favor, but you don't care. And there are certainly more important things in the state of West Virginia that need to be addressed.
Well, but somebody who does care about her seating is USC coach Lindsey Gottlieb, who says, I never thought I'd be a 1 seed and feel disrespected, but I thought there would be very little chance that we'd be the number 4 overall number 1. You agree with that, yes?
Yes. Yeah. When we saw this bracket, I was like, ooh, we talked to the committee after we got the bracket. We get the bracket right before the show airs because we do have to build graphics and things like that. Spoiler alert to the folks at home, we don't learn in real time. So we get a chance to just debrief with them before the show. And they claim that they don't look at those kinds of things, potential rematches from a year ago. They don't look at, what would be, we feel, and as TV people, robbing people of a potential Final Four matchup between two of the faces in the league in UConn and USC. But yeah, she's looking at her bracket and she's going, we earned a 1 seed And you make us have the toughest path because to get to the Final Four, we potentially have to go through UConn, a team that, by the way, ended their season last year when they were a 1 seed in the Elite Eight, and a team that they already had to face this year. And the thing about Juju Watkins is she is incredible and otherworldly. She's also one of those players that the more you play her, the more you sort of figure out a way to defend her. And so if I'm Lindsay, I'm absolutely upset. I know Dawn Staley was upset as well. She felt like they earned the right to be the number 1 overall seed. The thing that kills me with the committee is that sometimes it feels like they judge people by some criteria and then they don't judge them by the other. For example, Texas. We talked to them specifically about Texas, who got absolutely boat raced in the SEC championship, who barely beat LSU in the semifinals, an LSU team that didn't have Anissa Morrow or Flau'jae Johnson, which is like 45 points for them. And they didn't end the season particularly strong. She brought up UConn beating the brakes off of South Carolina as the reason that they didn't jump to that number 1 overall seed. But nobody finished the season out stronger than South Carolina. Notre Dame finished the season out incredibly poor, and they were punished by being on the 3 line, but they sort of just ignored Texas. So, the criteria doesn't really tend to make a lot of sense to me, but I think that, yeah, Lindsay's upset because she sees what awaits her, and that's trying to get through another one of the best guards in the country to get to the Elite Eight.
Well, do you agree with me, Elle? Because when I hear what she said, I think that's an odd attitude for a coach. I think most coaches would say, I don't worry about who we're playing. Bring it on. Bring them on. We're going to beat whoever's in our path, or something to that effect, as opposed to complaining about, oh, we got a tougher road.
I hear you, Chris. There we go. I had to get you back. I'm sorry. I hear you, Greg. I think, they put these microphones in the face of these coaches very quickly. I also think that she's trying to send a message to the committee. She did say a few times in that clip, like, I don't know how my team feels. I'm sure they just feel excited. We're hosting games. We got a big game coming up with UNC Greensboro to start the tournament. But I think she's just sort of expressing her frustration for feeling like, and here's my thing. We are still at a place, like the numbers are growing and we know that the games never had more attention, but we are still at a place where the committee should be keeping in mind potential matchups and what that means for ratings. And I think it would have been nothing, you guys, to swap Texas and USC. Nobody would have thought twice about it because yes, while UCLA ended up getting the best of them in the Big Ten tournament, USC had beat them twice previously, handedly, right? And so it would have made total sense to swap those two. And then not only do you not have to deal with a USC-UConn matchup in the Elite Eight, but you also avoid, if everything goes chalk, you also avoid potentially having a Final Four matchup with 2 Big Ten rivals that will be facing each other for the 4th frickin' time, and 2 SEC rivals that will be facing each other for the 4th time. And as Rebecca Lobo said, that's not beautiful basketball. Like when you face a team 4 times in 1 year, it just doesn't typically lead to a great competition that's high scoring, this beautiful basketball that we hope to see that helps expand and grow the game. I feel like the committee could have taken that into consideration. We said the same thing last year when we saw Iowa LSU would be an Elite Eight matchup and not a potential Final Four matchup. It worked out in the end, and we got UConn and Iowa. We got 2 of the biggest faces in the game, playing each other. The ratings reflected it, as did the finals. But it just would have been nothing to swap those 2. And I agree with her. I don't know.
I agree with you on the potential rematches in the Final Four if all the 1 seeds make it. I think that is annoying. And to think for them to be like, well, we're not paying attention to that, but then they have TCU and Louisville in the same little section with Haley Van Lith for the 2nd year in a row, potentially playing her old school. I'm like, you are paying attention a little bit though, right? Like, I feel like I'm being gaslit a little bit.
Yeah. Like you build a little bit of that. And maybe you could say on one side that the committee says, well, we need these Elite Eight games to also have high ratings, right? If you look at the bigger picture. So that is going to be a ratings bonanza, USC and UConn. But yeah, that's my point, is that I don't really know. I'm with Lindsay Gottlieb in that, I would just love to just sit down and figure out what exactly they have to follow an S curve. There's things like that. There's a whole lot of other things that they have to do. They can't have conference opponents meet each other too early. I get that they're dealing with a lot of metrics and it's not an exact science, but it just feels like it would be very easy to manipulate these just a little bit to the point where no one would know. It could be their secret. They could keep it to themselves, but ultimately we would get the matchups that we deserve.
Let's play a game of douche or no douche with Elle Duncan here. Give me my imaging. I haven't heard it for a while.
And now it's time to play Douche or No Douche. Here's your host, Douche Le Batard.
Person who takes their dog to the grocery store. Douche or no douche?
Douche. It's disgusting. I don't want your fucking dirty dog around food.
Yeah.
No. Why? Gross. And I know you're gonna cook most of it, but like, no, especially the ones that like put them in a carrier so they have even closer proximity to the produce. Why? Do you need emotional support in the grocery store? Do you?
Person who insists on talking to you about their fantasy team. Douche or no douche?
I don't play fantasy football, but I have 1 million friends, and my husband's friends always try to talk to me about fantasy football. Here's what I'll say. The douchey ones are the ones that pretend like they just want to have a chat with you, but really they're trying to get intel for fantasy or for betting.
Person who honks at you because you're texting at the stoplight. Douche or no douche?
No douche. That's me. Go. Why you're holding me up because you're distracted? No, I'm very impatient in the car. You need to fucking drive.
A sideline reporter who finishes his sideline interview and then does this while walking away, pumping a fist because he's pleased with himself. Douche or no douche?
Nailed it. No douche.
Thank you, Elle. It's me. Thank you for calling me not a douche. I was nervous.
Yeah, we've all been there, and like when we like feel like we like nailed something, we're like, let's go. I'll give like a little subtle let's go. There we go.
I reported the news.
A subtle let's go.
Elle, it is nice seeing you. We look forward, as we always do, to your coverage. Good talking to you.
Thanks for having me. Please have me anytime. And hey, Jess. Hey, girl. Hey.
Thanks, Tony.
Talk on chat.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Get over yourself. We're going to talk during the post game. Tim Reynolds, enough. I mean, enough.
I mean,
seriously.
you just got to know when
You're
the
not allowed to cheer in the press box. Did you know that?
Well, I did.
They were cheering for Will Manso. I think that's allowed.
And Goldie.
If the Dan Le Batard Show comes to a hockey press box, hilarity is going to ensue.
Yeah.
They're going to yell at Will Manso for 7 minutes, and you're probably going to have to go to a
7
stairwell
seconds.
to write, man. Like, it's just...
If it was 7 minutes, I'd get it.
It
was
is what
7
it is.
seconds.
Exactly. I mean, David, everyone else was saying hi. They were enjoying the show. They were laughing at us. But one guy is still clutching on to his newspaper deadline.
I'm a little
and it's
disappointed.
Tim Reynolds.
And is he your demographics, too?
I don't know.
I happen to like Tim a lot, and
Enough of him.
I imagine this was going to be like E.J. Raddick or something, but that's just a bad look for Tim Reynolds.
Listen, I went up to him afterwards.
This was the best part. Stugotz is like, I've known Tim for years. I'm going to go fix this. He walked to Tim and walked right back very quickly.
Yep.
It was a very quick interaction.
Well, he was writing. Okay?
He's on deadline. It's
enough of the deadline.
It's a
We're on deadline, too. I gotta get home. I feel like playoff hockey. I got to get home. I mean,
yeah, we're on deadline, too. We got to get that post game out.
It is a working press box. Tim Reynolds is a journalist who's trying to write, and Stugotz is back there. Hey, Will Manso!
That was Chris and Goldie. Don't leave out Goldie.
We're on deadline, too. They're going to kick us out of that press box a lot sooner than they'll kick out Tim Reynolds, who's just typing away. That's just...
Those writers had their game stories done before the end of the
Precisely.
Yeah, a good writer, right.
Oh,
what happened there? I apologize to him. I've known Tim for decades. I mean, Cody was done. He was out of there. I mean, you know.
What was that interaction like, Stugotz? Take us behind the scenes. You walk up to him, you say what, he says what?
I said, Tim, I apologize. That's on me. I should know better. Not Chris, okay? I should know better. I've been in press boxes before. I know you have a deadline. I apologize. And he said, that's fine. Just, try to keep it down.
That is way too long.
That was much longer than the actual conversation.
I always extend it a little bit. I mean, you guys
can we
know
call Tim Reynolds and just ask him about what the interaction was like?
Greg Cody's back
Back in my day, seeds.
Seeds. Seeds. Had a slice of watermelon lately? Popped a few grapes in your maw? Then you probably notice seeds are disappearing from fruit. And you probably see this as a good thing just because it makes life a little easier. We love us some convenience. In fact, it's a terrible thing, the de-seeding of us. Symbolically alone, the seed is the king of life. Adam gave his to Eve, and here we are, if you believe the story. If they take the seed out of humans the way we have watermelons, we're all dead ducks. Beans, peas, rice, coffee, corn, all seeds. Flour and oil started as seeds. All hail seeds. So what the hell is happening? In exchange for convenience, we are not valuing the seed's impact on health, biodiversity, and our food system. The genetic variability of most plants require seeds as essential to their evolution. De-seeded, artificially homogenized fruits rely on human intervention in the reproductive process, exposing the fruits to many pathogens. Plainly put, seedless fruits are not as good for you. They contain less fiber and have fewer minerals and vitamins than their seeded natural brethren. Seedless fruits also have fewer antioxidants, plant-based nutrients, and anti-inflammatory properties. But enough about this science. Bring back seeds because seeds are fun. Not to mention aesthetically and visually pleasing. Kids growing up today have sliced open a watermelon, have never sliced open a watermelon, and experienced the joy of seeing that juicy red flesh dotted with embedded black seeds. Nellie Doogie used to tell us if we swallowed a watermelon seed, a big melon would grow in our belly. It wasn't true. But as kids would make a competition out of seed spitting. You extracted the big seeds from the melon flesh. Tongue only, never fingers or a utensil, and you'd see who could project a seed the farthest. Every summer we did that. This was before video games, kids. Made our own games and toys. Flew a kite, kicked a can, spit a seed. Grapes were the real challenge because the seeds were so much smaller. We'd both pop a grape in our mouth, tongue moving, jaws in action, and whoever could spit out 3 seeds onto the table the fastest won. To this day, I carve real pumpkins and eschew the prefab foam and plastic fakes, mainly for the treasure trove of seeds inside. Hundreds and hundreds of them waiting to be scraped out, cleaned, and roasted in the oven to become delicious natural snacks. Respect, worship, and bring back the seeds. I need a t-shirt that says convenience is overrated. Insist to your local grocer that you'll take your watermelon seeded, please, and the grapes too. I'm Greg Cody, and that's how it was back in my day.
Yep. Journalism is dead.
But journalism, as we know it, as you know it, what you wanted to do when you were a little kid, okay? It has changed. It has. It's changed, okay? You're not wrong. Stephen A. Smith is not wrong. You have to adapt sometimes, okay? Because the game has changed. Your priorities have shifted. No one cares how someone goes and gets the news that they get as long as the news is accurate, as long as it's coming from a credible place. If it's Woj, if it's Adam Schefter, if it's you, if it's Diana Rossini, if it's Shams, nobody cares. You might care. Greg Cody might care. Stephen A. Smith might care. But you know what? You all sold out. Every single one of you, okay? Stephen A. Smith jumped inside the circus tent. I don't blame him. Why'd he do it? Because he had to do it. Because the game has changed. You jumped inside the circus tent. You did. You did so with me. Think about that. With me and with Greg Cody every Tuesday, okay? And so you have ditched journalism a long, long time ago because why? Survival of the fittest, Dan. You have to change with the times. You have to roll with the changing environment, roll with the changing industry, and that's what you decided to do. That's what Stephen A. decided to do. And for Woj, for guys like him, the game has changed slightly, where he went out and he sought reports, and he wanted to be the reporter. And you know what? If now he has morphed into a mouthpiece for the Blazers, I'm okay with it. I am good with it. I don't care.
Survival of the fattest.
Everyone, exactly. Everyone is selling out to make a buck.
What a terrible timing.
It was great.
Like that joke.
Hey, just give it up. You all want to be journalists. You're not journalists anymore. None of you. Not a one of you. Sorry.
You didn't even hear the joke.
I did. Survival of the fattest. It was great.
It just could have been done after Stugotz stopped talking, Dan.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Shoehorn that
But
in.
I'm okay. I'm okay
You're
with
splitting
it.
hairs.
Right.
Okay.
You adapt. You roll with things, man. That's it. Dan, you started off, if you're a driver, you drove a yellow cab and you were loyal to the yellow cab. You know what? But the game has changed to Uber, to Lyft, to private driving. And you know what? You have to ditch the yellow cab and you have to drive an Uber. Why? Because you'll make more money. Why? Because more people are taking Uber than the dirty yellow cabs. That's why. That's what you do. No one cares about journalism. You know what they care about? Laughing, being entertained. And you do a great job of that. And Stephen A. Smith does a great job of that. No one cares about journalism. People care about smiling. That's it.
This morning I found myself while I was driving Claire to school. I told her, you ask a lot of questions. You should be a journalist. And now here in this conversation, I just, don't be a journalist. Like,
exactly.
Do something else.
It's over.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Many years ago, I was talking with Kevin Durant about being tall as a child, and he said that as a fifth grader, he used to pray that every evening that he could be shorter because kids, want to fit in, and he was being gawked at because he was tall and it felt awkward for him. About a year ago, we talked about a Florida player, a player who had decided to go to Florida, Olivier Roux, who was 7'9", but wasn't one of the top 50 prospects in America, even though he was 7'9". He ended up going to Florida. Florida obviously is good enough to win the tournament this year, a very deep team. He's not playing for that team, but he was cutting the net the other day, and there's video of him cutting the net without having to get on the ladder, where he just reaches up there and cuts the net. There's also video of him on the team plane, a team plane filled with ostensibly other very large people, and he just looks very much bigger than everyone else. And sports is a great confidence builder for a number of people, success in sports. But when I see someone of this height and think of all the things that are problematic, including just trying to take a shower in a hotel room, just any hotel room in America, that person cannot take a shower. And or sleep in a bed, I imagine a normal bed is not something that a 7'9" person could sleep in. So when you add the combination of he's 7'9" and he's obviously a basketball player, and anyone who talks to him or sees him is going to see him as a basketball player, but he's not a good basketball player because he can't move around very well at that height. I remember the stories about Andre the Giant and the pain that he was in. And when I see someone of that height, it generally fills me with a sadness about the unknown because I imagine that person to be in a great deal of pain.
Yeah, because that's not just tall, that's freakishly tall, right? Like if you're 6'6" or 6'7", you're really tall, you stand out, but it's sort of normal tall. When I see somebody 7'9", I feel bad for them. And I thank the stars that I'm 5'9", to be honest with you. I mean,
the stars you're thanking for that.
Yeah. You know what I did the other day? Christopher, I think I've told you that I do this occasionally. There's a step stool in my garage. It's 2 steps, so it's like this tall. Occasionally, I stand on the step stool just to imagine how it would be to be 7 feet tall. And it is so weird because your whole perspective changes. You're a different person. If you have a step stool, stand on it. Put yourself in a 7-footer's shoes for just a minute. It really changes your outlook.
I've never bet. When you say 6'7" is a normal tall, I have legitimately never met a 7-foot human being who's not a basketball player. I've never seen what one of those looks like who doesn't play basketball in the wild anywhere.
Just some guys like I paint.
No,
That's
anywhere. I remember Meech, he said to me one time, because he was the first player in his country to make it to basketball, and the way that he started was so primitive in that the first basket that he played on, there was a wall right behind the basket, so there was no place to land on the other side of the basket when he was playing. He said to me, there are plenty of 7-foot people, because I'm like talking to him about, well, you had certain gifts being 7 foot, and he's like, there are plenty of 7-foot people who work at Subway, and I'm like, no, there aren't.
You guys are just begging someone to talk about the Terry Rozier Osama should have hooped tweet, right?
Oh, that's great.
You guys remember that one?
Go ahead.
It was just, he should have hooped. He's tall as hell. No one remembers that?
No.
So it's an all-time NBA Twitter moment. Is Terry Rozier saying Osama bin Laden should have hooped instead?
We mentioned that I joked that someone being tall could also be a painter, and we started talking back here. Yeah. What are other jobs outside of basketball that being really tall would be beneficial? Because painting, now I don't need the ladder for this, for the top of the ceiling here. Or maybe what else being tall would be helpful?
Fixing lights.
Yeah,
Fixing
electrician
lights.
Maybe, because then you can fix lights while still standing up and not needing a step stool.
A stock person at a store, at a grocery
great.
store. I can stock that top aisle now. Don't need the little step stool. See, there's other jobs they can do. It's not just basketball.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, though, because when you're growing up extra tall, you're made fun of. Not always, obviously, but it's a common bullying technique if you're freakishly tall.
I feel like as someone who grew up, red hair, freckles, I dealt with some. That's the child's play of the being. Like, if you're being mocked for being tall, like, that's the best case scenario of all the things you could be picked on for. I feel like being tall.
I feel like Chris.
Yeah, they deserve it.
I think.
What?
I feel like this is Chris's expertise.
Yes, I know bullying.
As a ginger kid.
Okay, but I've talked to Ron McGill about how he was bullied for being taller than everybody else growing up. Your mother grew very quickly. She was like 5'8" at age 13. It was terrible for her.
And my mom's a ginger. Man, that must have been tough growing up for my mom.
You should talk to her about that sometime. Seriously.
Okay, so Billy is informing me that as part of our March Sadness tournament that involves the fans of this show, that we have someone who's very tall, that he can't figure out whether that person is standing on a chair or not. So do we have rankings and seatings for these people who are in our tournament?
We do, and they have been informed via email today that they have made the tournament and they've gotten the next prompt. So should the fans vote for them to make it to the next round, they have a deadline that has been set. They need to send their follow-up video, and then if they have moved on, we will have their video so that they can move forward. Now, our competition committee met, and this is a 16 seed in one of the regions, and I'm going to, full disclosure here, tell you that when we were talking, there was a number of criteria that were met. There was the quad wins, the quad losses, all of that, right? But this one kind of got through, if I'm being completely honest with you, because we could not figure out if this man is just exceptionally tall or if he was standing on a chair the entire time.
My name is Jordan, and I think I should win the Biggest Fan Award because I have been listening for over 12 years, so I get the show. I've actually visited Miami twice, and I stayed at the Clevelander and at the Elser, so I'm definitely very invested in the Le Batard Show. And number 3, and most importantly, I'm a Minnesota sports fan, so I never win anything. My teams don't win any tournaments whatsoever. Dan is always talking about how the Vikings are frauds and the Wolves are going to get rid of Anthony Edwards. So it'd be nice to win something for once.
I mean, you get the gist of it, but he said he's the biggest fan and his head is nearly hitting the ceiling. So we said, you know what? This is up for the fans to decide if this is actually the biggest fan or not. But he seems to be a giant, that man.
Also, the Lynx have won 4 championships in the last 2 decades.
Well, he's a sexist, obviously.
He could be in a tiny house.
That's true.
He doesn't
very tall sexist.
He doesn't deserve to be in our tournament based
Well, he was
on
a 16 seed.
that
Let's be
video.
real. He's going to be bounced in the first round because the number 1 seed against him is a monster. So
Wait, did Greg see the video of the guy, the cameo that Greg was in? Because that should be a 1 seed. So if that guy is against really tall guy, the 1 seed's obviously is going to be a blowout.
We will get that in a moment, and we will play that again for the audience that wasn't listening on Sunday night, because Greg Cody enjoys nothing more than people who reference Greg Cody. So we will get to that in a second as soon as the video team gets to it. But Greg was wearing me out during the break because he was saying, hey, Dan, the West Virginia Attorney General is now involved. They're formally investigating everything that's happening with this North Carolina being allowed into the tournament.
this is so much work and ways for them to get bounced in one game.
Yeah. Also, James Comey was 6'8", and people used to say he should have hooped too. Wow. Yeah. Lee and I will walk up and down, like with our dog, like up and down the trail, and be like, "Wow, that person was." Like when we see a tall person, we always say should have hooped, and it's like a reference to that. And now, if you guys were there, you wouldn't even understand it. But now you will.
Do you think that tall people that are bad at basketball feel worse?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Right? Because there's just this assumption, like, you know what? Like, because I'm sure they get it all the time. Oh, you should have played basketball. Like, yeah, but I can't because I'm unathletic and my body is a waste. Respectfully.
Yeah, I'm sure there's been plenty of people who were tall and gave it a shot just because everyone was saying you should play basketball.
Like Ron.
So they tried and they were awful, just terrible.
Greg Cody, your thoughts on the West Virginia Attorney General now summoning an investigation? Because I keep hearing it wasn't just Elle, it was also you, and you wore me out during the break saying that it should just be understood that if the school that you're competing against has that kind of history in basketball, all of the things being equal, including merit, you should be okay with North Carolina making the tournament. And it's the opinion of someone who doesn't actually care about the team being wronged. Because if it was your team, nobody would be making the argument of, yeah, it's fine. It's not about this season. It's just about, and I'm with you on the idea that much of this is just for television, and you have to understand that it's not about merit. It's about entertainment. But if it were my team, I'd be mad that it were about entertainment instead of merit. That's not supposed to be how it works in sports. So I'm sure everyone listening to this is, West Virginia is being ridiculous with its governor and its attorney general, except for people who care about the West Virginia program, and except for any of you who care about any program. And if it happened to you, you'd be this kind of mad as well.
Yeah, but that outrage presumes that West Virginia has a strong argument. Which is extremely
not a strong argument, just a stronger one than North Carolina.
It's extremely debatable on that, okay? And television ratings do matter. Program heritage does matter. And North Carolina is incomparably higher than West Virginia. The analogy I used when we were talking off air is that if you're the college football playoff committee picking that 12th team and the choices are Alabama and Tulane, that's a no-duh decision, all other things being equal.
Again, though, if Jessica's Notre Dame is wronged in that situation, or if Mike's Miami or Billy's FIU or Jeremy's UCF.
Well, Mike's Miami was wronged in the women's bracket last year. They're the first team out, and they had some really, really bad losses last year. And it's a field of 68 teams. So it's like... It's a lot different than college football, where it's 4 teams and now it's 12 teams and there's automatic bids and everything like that. But you're really arguing about a really, really small select number of teams. This is a lot of teams. There's obviously 31 automatic bids, but then there's a bunch of at-large bids, over 30 of them. And it's like, okay, you got to make some choices. Yeah.
Again, though, you guys don't care enough about nobody here cares about West Virginia basketball.
Well, I think it's because they're mediocre, right? We're not talking about, again, like when we were talking about 4 teams for FSU or UCF, you're talking about undefeated teams that feel they've earned their way to be in a playoff. This is a field of 68. So we're talking about, there are automatic qualifiers. So you're talking about the 44th and 45th best teams in the country, potentially. There's an understanding of, really, you're going to have gripes over the minutia when we're splitting hairs 45 teams into this field? I understand March Madness's whole thing is anybody can win it because of these one-game samples. But, I mean, what are we really talking about here if you're the governor of West Virginia?
Also, more people don't care about West Virginia basketball than do, just statistically in the world. So we represent the majority.
And they lost their last game. Had they won, they would have been
to a 3-17 team. But I would just say that in the era of gripes, you saying that the minority that feels wronged gets laughed at by the majority, it's why the minority ends up feeling even more alone with their wronged, because no one cares about this enough except for a politician who's out here trying to
grandstand.
Yes, yes.
He does not care about that team either. If we're going to be perfectly
agreed.
honest,
Just cares about his constituency, and it's wise to care about that particular constituency. This is the easiest possible issue for a politician to get behind and summon his attorney general to help him with, because the people. What are you shaking your head no about? It's just this
patently ridiculous. Elle Duncan agreed with me. It's beneath the office of the governor, and the attorney general was appointed by the governor, so that's his puppet, just moving like a marionette to whatever the governor says. It's a waste of taxpayer money. Like Jeremy said, you're talking about the 68th spot in the tournament. It's not even worth any outrage whatsoever. Just grow up, take defeat. You lost to a 3-17 team. Zip your lip. Move on.
A second zip your lip.
Yeah, I don't say that nearly enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and another thing is that somebody mentioned the 35th ranked education system in the United States. How about turn your attention to that and don't worry about the Mountaineers?
Right.
There you go, Greg.
Okay, very good. Greg's got a lot of opinions. I want to get to most of them. I also want to get to updating our tournament, which we will do in a second. But I wanted to put before you guys some information that I did not know before yesterday. Sean Baker, the director of Honora that won so many Oscars, and also the director of The Brutalist, whose name escapes me right now. Both of these people have said, this stunned me, that the Hollywood film market and independent movie making has taken such a hit in the streaming age. The business of it has taken such a hit where DVD sales and money you can make after making a movie is no longer available. Both of them have said they're broke, that they didn't make any money on those movies. That the director of The Brutalist told Mark Maron, I made $0 making that movie, and Sean Baker is saying something very similar. I could not believe that the industry, that independent movie making is in such peril that Honora, which costs $6 million to make, is unable to pay Sean Baker what he believes is, never mind a decent wage for an obsessive project that requires a number of hours, but that you're talking about people who are struggling to get any kind of paycheck for exemplary work. I knew the movie making industry was in some peril. I knew it was hard to make independent films. I did not know that both people who had made the best film of the year would be saying, hey, $0 or close to broke.
But like when you do independent films, that's always kind of been how it works, right? Like you never really make a ton of money off of independent movies, and if you're the director and you direct an independent film with such acclaim, that's how you kind of get your name out there, and then you move on to less artful projects where you make the money. Like now he'll be doing a Spider-Man movie or something in the future, and he'll make $800 zillion. And you know what? You sell out, but you make all your money. You made your art, you win your award, and then you go on and make all the money.
Also, speaking of Hollywood, Vince Vaughn should have hooped. He's like 6'5".
Yeah. Wow.
He's taller than that.
Big guy.
He's taller than that.
Well, the internet says 6'5". Christopher Lee also 6'5".
I was dwarfed
Saruman.
standing next to him. I felt small. I don't feel small around a whole lot of people. I was surprised by how tall he is.
Jeff Goldblum's 6'4".
Nicholas Braun is 6'7".
I think you can do this on both ends. You can shock us right now. You can shock the listening audience on both the high end and the low end by telling them some actors who are impossibly small and some who are larger than you think they are.
Tom Cruise plays roles that are 6'6".
He's 5'6".
When you Google tallest actors, half of them are NBA players that have been in movies like Shaq. and LeBron James. But then you also get a Ted Cassidy, who I believe Greg knows, right, Greg?
Yeah. No.
No?
Oh.
Was it a different Cassidy we were talking about?
Who dat? Okay.
Feel free to find both on the high end and the low end. The low end can be
He's
funnier.
like an old-timey actor.
Uncle Phil was 6'5".
Isn't what's his name? Dustin Hoffman really short?
Yes.
5'6", something like that.
Tiny.
5'5".
5'5".
Jason Alexander, 5'5". Seth Green, 5'4". Patton Oswalt, 5'3".
All of those, I'd like some that are surprisingly small because you think of them as taller.
Al Pacino, 5'6".
Mm-hmm. Well, there are pictures of Al Pacino and Robert De Niro walking around in like clogs and stuff and high heels on a set meant to make them look larger. And
I'm wearing those same shoes right now. Like literally this.
Wow. They'll often get actors who are similarly small to make them appear larger. There are any number. I think that Emilio Estevez is stunningly small. I think that you can find a number of actors that you will surprise the audience because they look on the screen like they're bigger. How tall is Tom Cruise? He's about 5'6", is he not?
The internet says 5'7", but I don't quite believe that. I've stood next to Tom Cruise one time at Blizzard Beach in Orlando, and I towered over him.
Wait, Tom Cruise was at Blizzard Beach?
Yeah, this was right after the divorce, or as the divorce was being finalized. So he brought his daughter, who was like a little kid at the time, to Blizzard Beach and was walking through. I was there with the camp that I'm volunteering for. I was talking to one of the counselors, and he looked right past me as if he had seen a ghost. So I turned to my right, and I was like, "Who's a short guy? Doesn't matter." I turned back, and then I looked, and it's Tom Cruise. And then all of a sudden, because he realized that we noticed him, he starts speeding up, and he's dragging his daughter along. And then I realized there's a security detail behind him, and they all ran up, and we tried to throw a Camp Fiesta bracelet at him and tell him, "Hey, there's this camp, and it's really cool." And then we lied to everybody at the camp and told them that we actually talked to Tom Cruise, but we only told one person. And then by the time we got back to the base where everybody was hanging out at camp, all 80 people at the camp thought that we had met Tom Cruise. We kept that lie going for like 5 years. It was really awesome.
You lied to kids with cancer?
I lied to the counselors who used to have cancer.
Danny Trejo, 5'6".
Big difference.
Vern Troyer, 2'8".
They lied to the kids with cancer.
Jeremy.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Are you surprised that Danny Trejo is only 5'8"?
5'6".
5'6".
Also,
excuse me.
Brady Corbett, you would have made more money if The Brutalist was actually good, which it wasn't. So.
Wow. Let's play for Greg Cody what promises to be, or I'm assuming already is, a number 1 seed in this tournament. And just please put in picture the look on Greg Cody's face so you can see how radiant he will get at any mention of his name or any reference that is anywhere near him.
Why do I deserve the crown for this year's March Sadness? Well, if I've learned anything watching the show, it's always side with Greg Cody. So I spent a lot of money on Cameo for this endorsement. I hope you like it. Who needs me? It's the manager of the Lobos. Just want to support this guy because he gave me money through Cameo. And I do want to say, in all seriousness, back in my day, we used to take our
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cody on ESPN.
Billy, how many more tournament teams do you want to unveil to the audience? Have you have already got the 68 videos? You've organized them?
Yeah, we've organized, we've ranked, and we've informed the 64 teams that made the tournament. So they'll know, and fan voting will start. I believe we're trying to go along Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
64,
schedule.
not 68.
Well, yeah, because then we'd have to add an extra round. Dan, you don't want to know the logistics of this whole thing. Trust me.
I really don't.
64
and it's one of the rare instances when I do trust you.
Oh, well. Anywho, so here's another one of our submissions. I'm not going to tell you the number or the rankings, but this is another submission to the tournament. When, again, was asked, why should you watch a game with Dan?
Dan is talking to Vince Wilfork today. So many things that he wants to say. Then he asked about his wife, Bianca. I just got a brand new wife tonight. Don't ask me about my old wife tonight. Trying to stop Dan's face from reddening. The silence from Wilfork is deadening. Dan just made an ass out of himself.
I love him.
I still hear the echoing laughter of Vince Wilfork and his new wife in the New Orleans airport outside of the bathroom when they saw me.
So if you'd like, we have another one here. Again, the question was, why should you watch the game with Dan, or why are you the show's biggest fan? And here was another submission.
You and me, Dano, talking about your great turn on phrases or eating your fantastic popcorn. We can talk about how the band Korn popped back in 1999, how the media game has changed since then. Media, me, dia, my day. Back in my day, getting your jersey retired meant something. Retired? Reed tired? Is Eric Reed tired of Greg Cody trying to make fun of him? Hymns. Like what they sing in churches or cathedrals. The cathedral of sports. What journalists are trying to save, running around like freaks on a leash. The song that popped Korn.
Well written.
Wow!
Nice.
A poet!
I need to text Charlie Kravitz right now.
Greg, how do you feel? Because you are you've got a number of different opinions here today that we have not yet gotten to, and I'd like to spin the wheel of Greg Cody issues, if you guys don't mind. I'd like to spin the wheel right now, and I will tell you what it is that's on the wheel. We've got Tommy John is on the wheel, the NIT tournament. Aaron Rodgers is on the wheel. Let's see what it lands on. What did it land on, Greg?
Oh, I get to pick? I would think something
No,
else.
you just read it off the wheel.
The
You
wheel
look at the
picks.
wheel
The wheel picks.
and pick the thing it landed
You
on.
got to pick the
Oh,
wheel.
right. Okay. I think NIT. It landed on NIT.
You think so? Or
It was wavering, and then,
Okay.
the paddle, and then it went over at the last second.
Okay.
The NIT tournament and the other pretender tournaments, there's even a new one. I think there's 3 now. But the NIT and those people, they need to disappear. Okay? 68 teams is enough. Everything else is a leftover. If you win the NIT tournament, don't cut a net. Don't act all happy about winning that trophy. It doesn't matter. You're leftovers. 68 teams is enough. All the other tournaments should be disbanded. I really believe that. And if I were a self-respecting head coach who missed out on the NCAA tournament, I wouldn't accept a bid. I would tell my players we weren't good enough. We didn't make the only tournament that matters.
They make money off of going.
I know they do. And money drives everything, unfortunately. And now we're so mad for content. We're so desperate for content that there's always going to be a market for the secondary tournament and the third tournament and the fourth tournament. It's like giving out a ribbon for finishing last in a race. You don't deserve it. You didn't make the NCAA tournament. You've had a less than successful season. Let it be.
How many years in a row have you done this? Just this take?
I mean, it's a take I believed in for a long time. I didn't pick it. I mean, the wheel picked it.
You are against the NIT in a way that's that's strongest among all media members, and I can't wait until the governor of West Virginia and the attorney general are invited to West Virginia winning the NIT tournament and celebrating it with their local politicians.
Did you guys see that there was a controversy with South Alabama over the weekend? Okay, so what happened is UC Riverside had committed to being in the CBI tournament, which is a third tournament. So therefore, they were left out of the NIT tournament because of their commitment to the CBI tournament. So because UC Riverside had already committed to that tournament, the NIT needed another school, so they invited South Alabama to participate in the NIT tournament. Now what happened was UC Riverside was then able to get out of their commitment to the CBI tournament. So the NIT tournament rescinded their invitation to South Alabama after inviting them and informing the players that they would be part of the NIT tournament.
I'm telling you what, it's a nightmare. It's a landscape on fire. The NIT used to have that lane to itself, right? The NIT was the also-ran tournament. There was no competition. And now there's the one you mentioned. There's a new tournament. There's at least 3 and perhaps 4, big level tournaments now competing. And so the NIT is getting its back up. The NIT is saying, hey, we were the also ran tournament for a long time, didn't have any competition. Now we have other made up tournaments competing for our also ran teams. It's ridiculous.
And the CBI is different than the CBC, right? Which is the College Basketball Crown. That's another tournament happening in Vegas.
That's
Too many
the new one, I
tournaments.
think. Yeah,
and the
that's the new one.
CDC is the Center for Disease Control.
Also, the
that
NIT
doesn't
used
exist
to be the premier tournament, right? Like back in the 50s before the NCAA took
I think
over.
it's
The
Premier
NIT,
League.
and then it was very prestigious to play in the NIT.
Yeah, the knit. Call it the knot.
NOT.
Spin the wheel again.
When my pap was the manager of Duquesne, they won the NIT, I believe.
What did it land on there, Greg?
Oh, wow. I am thrilled by this. Getting to talk about Tommy John. Okay. Tommy John is known for two things, surgery and underwear. Okay, Tommy
and 288 wins.
Tommy John, wait a step on my punchline. Tommy John surgery.
How could I have known what your punchline is?
It's like Garrett Cole, Tommy John surgery. A couple of things. Number one, Tommy John did an interview. He's 81 years old, still alive. God bless him. He did an interview with AARP magazine a couple of years ago. He's against Tommy John surgery, which they named after him because Frank Jobe, the surgeon, wanted to give it a name that people would remember. Tommy John rightly thinks that there's too many Tommy John surgeries now. They're too routine, and the majority, like 60% of Tommy John surgeries, are to high school age pitchers. He's against that, and I think he's got a point. The other thing is
he's against their arms getting hurt. He's against his name being associated with it.
He's against too many surgeries. He's against the surgery named after him being used.
To play through the pain.
No, he's saying probably if you're a high school kid and you might need UCL surgery, it might not be worth it for you to go through that surgery is what
Thank
I
you.
imagine he's saying because of the thousands upon thousands of high school kids getting reconstructive surgery with Tommy John. I would imagine 5 of them maybe make it to even professional ball, let alone the big leagues.
You're 100% right. He's certainly not saying play through the pain, which is ridiculous. Tommy John underwear comes out, and poor Tommy John, he's thinking of suing Tommy John underwear, which is unaffiliated with him, only to find out that he couldn't afford the lawyer in that case. But as Le Batard mentioned, stepping on my punchline, Tommy John, and take it from a Baseball Hall of Fame voter, Tommy John deserves to make the Hall of Fame. The only other pitcher since 1900 with that many pitching wins not to be in the Hall of Fame is Roger Clemens because of steroids. So Tommy John is Hall of Fame worthy on just about every level. His career ERA is like 3.3, which is really, really good. So instead of just knowing him for surgery and underwear, put this man in the Hall of Fame while he's still alive.
Did you guys notice? I don't know if this story is something that has gotten traction or if it's something that's happening outside of South Florida. But my wife was very confused recently because it is taking her months to try and get a DMV appointment. That one of the things that's happening with all of the chaos in some American systems failing and the government being actively broken, the DMV is not functioning correctly. But now people have done some reporting to find out what's happening there. The appointments, the free appointments, are being booked by people who are affiliated with like the driver's school or the traffic school, and then the appointments are being scalped. If you want to get a free appointment at the DMV, you have to pay someone who is hogging the appointments because there are scalpers who are taking the DMV appointments and then putting them on the secondary market
on game time?
So that you have to pay for them.
Genuinely, it's insane. And if you have to go to the DMV in Miami, good luck. Lehman drove to Vero Beach twice last year to get his car registered. That's like a 150-mile drive both ways.
That's where Wild Bill's from.
We could not get an appointment at the DMV here. It's crazy.
I just did not have a circumstance in any scenario non-apocalyptic where DMV would be something that I have to pay for because people are scalping DMV reservations. Is that only because we're a corrupt banana republic, or is this happening throughout the country with DMV?
Well, you can also just wait like 3 weeks. Like you just make the appointment and you wait.
There were like no appointments.
I drove to the Keys when I needed to renew my passport. Made a day out of it.
But
Went
like,
to
if
Jimmy
you want to go to
Johnson's,
the
Big
one at
Chill.
like Magic City, you can't get an appointment. Like the last time I tried, which was like 2 or 3
You
years
guys
ago.
need to know a person.
Exactly.
You know
Billy.
a person, then they tell you which one you go to, and you go to like someone. It's you drive like 25 minutes in there. It's next to like a post office.
Okay, but
you go
some
in and
people
out.
can't do
boom.
that because they have work, and they
Yeah,
can't be like out standing in a line at 4 a.m. to get into the DMV just to get their license renewed.
You know, it's too bad Dan's wife doesn't know anybody really important who could like make a phone call and sort of circumvent some of these.
Or can't afford $25 to get the reservation, or is making some sort of principled stand about
there you
not.
go.
But it's taken months, Billy. It ain't a week's thing. It's not waiting for weeks. She can't get an appointment for many months.
The Miami-Dade tax collector is named Dariel Fernandez, and Fernandez said in a statement that in the 3 weeks since their office opened up in downtown Miami, a suspected 200 appointments came through with suspected scalpers. I mean, in 3 weeks, 200 of the appointments they think have been booked by these people who are reselling them for Can we just start everything over? Can we just press I mean, this is the end of all of society, right?
This is going. The tickets are going, or the reservations are going for anywhere from $25 to $250.
Yeah, let's just end it.
$50.
Yeah, it should be against the law, scalping government access like that. It really should be, but the secondary market changed the music concert industry. When I was growing up, you'd literally wait in line overnight to get a Rolling Stones ticket as soon as they went on sale. Now, you can barely get one, and you end up having to pay a lot more on the secondary market, right?
Let me spin the wheel real quick here, one last time here. See if we can get Greg Cody's. What does it say there, Greg?
Okay, I had to wait because it was just wavering. Aaron Rodgers, still unsigned. He's holding the NFL hostage. He's going to wind up with the Giants or the Steelers. Some people still want to float that Minnesota Vikings rumor.
Namely him.
Well, he does, but they're committed to J.J. McCarthy, assuming he's completely healthy from what kept him out all last year as a rookie. But it does make you wonder, though, that if the Steelers, if Aaron Rodgers is good enough for the Steelers and the Giants, why wasn't he good enough for the Jets? Is Justin Fields better? I think that's something in retrospect that you can ask. But Aaron Rodgers, he's on fumes, but he's still a big name. And if he goes to the Giants, I think that's where he needs to be. Do for the Giants what he never could do for the Jets. His ego needs the big city. So it's at his age, 41, 42, he's still a major player in this league.
Who's he holding hostage?
He's holding the teams hostage that Pittsburgh and the Giants. Make a decision already. Make a decision. They need to move on before the draft's right around the corner. Make a decision so that the team you don't pick can move on.
Why wouldn't he just try and wait out the preferred option of Minnesota? Why would he, so he can stop inconveniencing you, and you can because you're accusing him. You care so much about the Giants and the Steelers being held hostage that you think he should choose one of those lesser preferred scenarios to the one he prefers to satiate you?
No. When I say he's holding hostage, he's holding the two teams that really, really want him. They need to move on. They need to get another quarterback if he's going to say no. And most of the quarterback options are gone now.
But why does he owe them anything? He's trying to get the best spot for him. And
the best spots are available for him now, and they were 2 weeks ago. There's only I said on this air a couple of weeks ago the options for him are dwindling, and now it's down to 2 or 3 if you believe the fibs about the Vikings. So make a decision already.
So
what
you
are
have them
waiting
being
for?
fibs? You have them being fibs, Vikings fibs.
It is being reported by people I trust that the Vikings are committed to J.J. McCarthy. And we all know that Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere as a backup, right? And so make your decision already.
I have been trying to encourage the audience to be better about its phone calls on this Boost Mobile Boldest Take hotline. The telephone number is 305-486-GOTZ, G-O-T-Z, 305-486-4689. These have admittedly been slightly better, though that's not saying much.
I think they've been a lot better. The Boost Mobile Boldest Take from the weekend is presented by Boost Mobile, the newest 5G network in the country. And here is this week's submission.
Key on a mobile from the Bay Area. Calling to let you know I think blueberries are awful. By far the worst berry.
Marshall Faulk is the best running back I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, this is Dan from Phoenix on a mobile. Sandlot, great movie, terrible ending. We have 93 minutes of pure cinema building up the kid legend, Benny the Jet Rodriguez, only to find out that it amounts to him being a pinch runner. A pinch runner. Very anticlimactic.
I've got a tour song. And I'm here to remind you of the check down pass that you threw to me. He's got gray hair. He's left-handed with the eye black cross that you wear for me. To it.
Hey, this is Tony in Orlando. My hot take is we should not be able to get speeding tickets from cameras. Police officers should have to catch us breaking the law in order to give me a ticket. I'll hang up and listen.
I want more Jim Larinaga.
This is B Green, first time, last time. And this is my limited fake, Patrick Warburton, as Joe from Family Guy. Hey, Peter!
The greatest mysteries known to man. The origin of life, quantum physics, how Tommy Tuberville beat Alabama 5 times in a row.
Yep, Jay on the mobile from Toronto. Fake limited. Dan Le Batard! But Stugotz, he's actually a good Stugotz. What do you mean? Greg Cody!
Next saying what